Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Today, we saw the Bucks pick up a 114-104 win against the Charlotte Hornets that allowed them to dodge what would have been a season series sweep against Charlotte. In this game, the dominance of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bryn Lopez from inside the arc was what really carried the Bucks to victory, and Giannis in particular was absolutely terrific. The MVP candidate finished with 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists on 11 for 19 shooting, putting up numbers and making an impact that we have all grown all too accustomed with and the Milwaukee Bucks fan base. But Giannis was able to impact the game in a lot of ways, especially on the offensive end, where he attacked a Charlotte Hornets defense that was not very well situated to defend him in a multitude of ways. One of those was obviously attacking from the top of the key, which is the primary area in which we've seen Coach Mike Budenholzer use Giannis to attack opposing defenses over the past couple of years. The Hornets didn't have anyone strong enough or quick enough to keep Giannis in front of them, and that allowed Antetokounmpo to get some really easy dunks at the basket. He also was used in a post-up situation, which is an area where the Bucks have been more prone to use him over the past couple of weeks. And today, Giannis got some really easy turnaround jump shots out of the post. So I think that that's an area in which we could see the Bucks continue to utilize him more frequently. Giannis was also incredibly impactful on the defensive end of the court, where he still is the reigning defensive player of the year. This season, I don't think he's receiving as much consideration for the award, but he's still one of the best defenders in the entire NBA, and he showed it tonight, picking up 3 steals and a block. He was able to use all of his length in order to play that rover off the ball help defender role that we've seen him play all so frequently over the past couple of seasons, and it allowed him to wreak a lot of havoc on the Charlotte Hornets offense, forcing them into 17 turnovers. Now, a lot of the Bucks defense tonight was great. They had 13 steals as a whole. 3 went to Dante, 2 went to Chris Middleton, 2 went to Bryn Lopez, but Giannis was the primary reason why Charlotte was so mistake-prone. And I think that it's worth talking about whether or not this is the best version of Giannis Antetokounmpo that we've ever seen. Now, Giannis is the reigning 2-time MVP, so he certainly has lofty standards to live up to. It also seems unlikely that he will win MVP this season, as he seems to be in a second tier of candidates behind the top guys in Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry, in no particular order. But Giannis has still been great this year, and he's taken some pretty huge strides in areas in which we've needed him to improve over the past couple of seasons. He's become a better passer, he's more capable of dealing with the wall defense that has troubled him in the past postseasons, he's a better free throw shooter than he ever has been, and he continues to be great in the areas he always has been, like transition offense and the defensive end of the court overall. Giannis is one of, if not the best player in the entire NBA. And as Milwaukee fans, we're blessed to have him in his prime. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not this new and improved version of Giannis that has kind of gone under the radar in the views of a lot of NBA fans will be able to carry the Bucks further in this year's playoffs than he has in playoffs past. Getting back to the Bucks defense, as I talked about before, they were very, very active in forcing the 17 turnovers from the Charlotte Hornets, but they were also able to make life very uncomfortable for Charlotte's leading scorer in terms of the guys who were suiting up in this game, in Terry Rozier. Now, for the season, Rozier is averaging less points per game than Gordon Hayward, but considering that Hayward is currently out with injury, Rozier is their primary guy in the offense. And the Bucks did a great job in defending him, with Jrue Holiday in particular really locking down on Rozier. Terry had just 8 points on an extremely inefficient 4 for 17 shooting, featuring an 0 for 7 mark from beyond the 3-point line. This kind of defensive effort is very important, and it was good to see the Bucks defense really step it up after an atrocious fourth quarter showing against Atlanta on Sunday night, in which they surrendered 41 points in just 12 minutes. Getting back to the offensive side of the court, Brook Lopez was the second leading scorer for the Bucks tonight, which is not really something that I've said too much this season. But Brook had a terrific matchup against a Charlotte Hornets team that continues to be without Cody Zeller and only played one true big man for sparing minutes throughout the game in Bismack Biyombo. Because the Hornets were playing with some small ball actions for large portions of the game, Brook was able to use his 7'1", 280-pound frame to get great position inside the paint for some really easy shots at the rim. Brook finished with 22 points on a remarkably efficient 9 for 12 shooting from the field, and he was really a consistent source of offense for the Bucks. Whenever they were having a hard time getting something going, they could just look inside and see if Brook was able to get great position, and most of the time he was able to outmuscle PJ Washington for some really easy looks at the rim. For Brook, the questions came more on defense in this game, as I was unsure whether or not he was going to be able to keep up guarding PJ Washington or the other perimeter players for the Hornets, as the Bucks actually switched just about every screen action in this game, and that led to Lopez being put on an island against players like Devontae Graham on more than one occasion in this game. Lopez isn't necessarily someone that I trust to guard players on an island, especially guys as talented as Graham with the ball in hand, but I actually thought that he did a pretty solid job of keeping those guys in front of him in today's game. It's not necessarily something that I would be incredibly comfortable with in the playoffs, but at least Lopez has shown that he is apt to at least survive when he's guarding on the perimeter. However, that wasn't good enough to keep him in the game for the entire closing stretch, as Coach Mike Budenholzer decided to go with an offense for defense strategy, with PJ Tucker subbing in for Brook to play the defensive side of the court. And PJ was much missed against the Atlanta Hawks on Sunday, where he sat out with, I believe, lingering effects of his calf injury. Today, PJ was back, and he played 26 minutes, which is his most as a Milwaukee Buck, and it's good to see him continue to be integrated further into the Bucks scheme, as I believe that playing him at the 4 with Giannis Antetokounmpo at the 5 makes the Bucks have a lethal defensive lineup where they can switch just about 1 through 5, and that can really make it difficult on opposing teams to score the ball. PJ made a huge impact this game, despite the box score not necessarily indicating it. PJ had 5 points, 4 rebounds, and a steal, which are, decent numbers for a role player, but considering he played 26 minutes, they're certainly a little underwhelming. But you have to actually watch the game to understand how impactful someone like PJ Tucker is. He was diving all over the court for the Bucks, and he made some huge plays in helping the Bucks get some extra possessions in this game. PJ is a great player to watch, and it's important that we continue to utilize him more and more to our advantage, because I think he's someone that can genuinely help the Bucks win playoff games when the time comes. The Bucks' second and third options on most nights didn't have terrific games tonight, as Chris Middleton had 17 points on 7 for 15 shooting, and Jrue Holiday had 12 points on 6 for 15 shooting. So that's combining for 29 points on 30 shots. Not great. However, those two guys were still able to find ways to impact the game in positive ways. Chris Middleton in particular struggled from the three-point line as he went just 2 for 8, so instead of settling for those jumpers, he instead decided to leak out in transition a little bit, which led to him having an easy layup off a feed from Jrue Holiday and an easy dunk off a pass from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Chris also dished out 6 assists, which is above his season average in dimes, so it was certainly good to see him up his passing and his inside scoring when his three-point jumper wouldn't fall. And that three-point jumper not falling was a trend for the entire Bucks team, as they shot just 25.8% from beyond the three-point line. It's certainly promising for the Bucks to be able to win games despite shooting so poorly. That was true for Jrue Holiday as well, who went 0 for 3 from 3. But he was still super impactful, both because of the defense he played on Terry Rozier, and because he was able to really crash the boards in an effective fashion for Milwaukee, as he grabbed 10 rebounds. Jrue and Chris are not always going to be lighting up the scoreboard. They're both reliant on making some difficult shots, and while Jrue Holiday is certainly capable of some emphatic dunks like the one he had on Bismack Biyombo today, and woo! don't even get me started on that dunk, because that was something special. They do rely on difficult jump shot making looks, so to see them step up and impact the game in other facets was definitely a good sign, and something that I look to see them continue to do whenever their shots are not necessarily falling. I'll tell you a guy whose shots were falling, not following, Bryn Forbes. Forbes finished with 15 points on 6 for 10 shooting and 3 for 6 from beyond the three-point line. Forbes is another player who struggled on Sunday against Atlanta, so to see him step up his game and knock down half of the shots that he took from 3 and 60% of the shots that he took overall was definitely a good sign, and Forbes is a spark plug for the Bucks off the bench with his shooting, so it's definitely good when he's knocking down his shots. Finally, I do want to say that I was impressed with the play of the young core for the Charlotte Hornets, as Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, and PJ Washington combined to score 64 points on 22 for 41 shooting. Each of those guys had their moments, and they were all impressive to varying degrees, but I especially come away from this game thinking that Miles Bridges has a chance to really become a high-level starter for the Charlotte Hornets team. He's both a plus defensive player, someone who can rebound at a high level for a wing, and is capable of scoring in multiple different ways, as he was knocking down threes, slashing to get to the rim, and grabbing offensive rebounds for easy putbacks. So I think that I am a Miles Bridges fan, and I look forward to seeing whether or not he can really become someone who can be a second or third best player on a really high-level playoff team, obviously behind LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward. Finally, Jeff Teague did not play in tonight's game, and I'm not super surprised because, as I said in my video after that Atlanta game, Teague has been pretty bad for the Bucks of late. I know that this is certainly a shame because we did use one of our 2 open roster spots on Teague, but if he's not going to be bringing positive contributions, I don't see any reason to have him on the court. The Bucks have plenty of other ball handling options in Chris Middleton, Jrue Holiday, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Dante DiVincenzo. So I think that Teague registering DNPs is probably something that we're going to see a lot more of as the season goes on. Let me know what you thought of this game in the comments section down below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. I think that I covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.